Harlow, I believe you're moving this.
Chairman, yes.
Is that seconded?
Seconded.
Mike, would you like to introduce the item to us?
Thank you. This large document, which I'm sure you've all read in detail, has taken quite a long time and effort to produce, and I would like to put on the record our thanks to the officers. There is actually nothing like this in the country, so it is somewhat of a first. It's been produced by the Harlow and Gilston Garden Town team, and it has to be adopted by the three planning authorities within, so that's us, Epping Forest and East Hart. East Hart and Epping Forest have already approved it. It's now down to us. The aim of the document is to help planning applicants to achieve sustainability in their projects. It's also there for officers to be able to assess sustainability of applications. And it's also there for members of planning committees to be able to decide and make decisions on applications. I have to say it's an excellent document, and broadly it details all of the sustainability aspects of the project and gives it three categories. The first category, which is the minimum, is basically does it meet the building regulations, the green, some of the other regulations it's required to do. That's the minimum. The next step up is for the project to be carbon neutral by 2050, which is the intermediate option. And then the final option, which is the desired option, which we're looking for, is for carbon neutrality by 2030. So basically what happens is the applicant goes through and ticks off in the column for each of the elements, and then that's used by the officers and the members to determine how sustainable the application is. I said at the beginning that this is unique. It is so unique that the TCPA, that's the Town and Country Planning Association, are actually using this as an example. And I know this is happening because I was dealing with a proposed garden community down in Hampshire, and I guided them to this document, and they said, well, we've already got it, and we're reading it, using it as a template. So it is a good document. But for those of you who have read it, it is very complex. So there is going to be some training for members of our planning committee so that they can understand what they're looking at. So I'm happy to propose this to the chair.
Councillor, do you wish to say anything at the moment, or do you want to reserve your right to speak? Okay, thank you. I'll open the floor to questions first of all. Are there any questions? I see Councillor Danvers indicating.
Thank you, Chair. Given the amount of emphasis on the climate emergency and so on, has the new portfolio holder, has he any comments in regards to the new road that's actually planned into Harlow?
Can I stop you there, Councillor Holloway, before you answer that question? Can I turn to the legal officer and just ask you to ensure that we're able to answer that given the current by-election that's underway, or is there anything that members should be wary of when asking questions or debating that item?
Chair, you are still yet to determine the planning application for that, so any comment should be made in light of that, so to avoid predetermination.
Okay, so any members of the planning committee need to be cautious on mentioning that. So, Councillor Harlow, would you like to answer the question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. Obviously, the guide checklist has not been approved yet, so it hasn't been used with this application at all. But I'm aware and have in fact been down to the site and met with the campaigners to look at this end of the link road. And I've said to them that I've asked officers to look and check that all of the proper analysis and evaluations have been done. And I will happily meet with them again to discuss it once that's been done. But obviously it is a live planning application.
Any other questions? Councillor Pence.
Thank you, Chair. It was a very long document. You're right, Councillor Harlow, although not quite as long as the audit report we all sat and read yesterday and discovered we didn't need to. And that isn't a quite a political point because we all were quite annoyed about it.
I think everyone was, yes.
And again, these are just some technical questions just about the wording of the document, and if you're not the person to answer them, Councillor Harlow, I apologise, but I will raise them anyway. It's just page 49, it says about renewable energy, which clearly I'm sure everyone in the chamber would welcome. And I just kind of the question as to what extent will new development rely on renewable energy. Is it an ambition or is it a red line? Because on page 50 it then says use renewable energy where necessary, and I felt that seemed like the wrong turn of phrase for when we're trying to ensure that we use renewable energy as much as possible, I would suggest. But I'll leave that to you.
Councillor Harlow?
Thank you, yes. The documents that have been drafted in light of existing planning law, so it can't specify anything that is not in the planning law. You'll see, as I said, there's three categories. Category 1 is mandatory. You have to adhere to the minimum. The next two are aspirational. There's nothing to force developers to do at the moment.
Councillor Mills?
One question, it may well be the same answer, but just obviously, and this did come from a resident who contacted me about this, on page 54 it speaks about flood risk, and I wonder whether Councillor Harlow or the officers might be able to explain a little bit more about what analysis has been done about this. I know there were some concerns, say from a resident who contacted me about flooding around the high corners of Edinburgh Way, and I just wondered if what analysis has been done. And I'm not expecting you to produce a huge document, which is amazing for me, about environmental issues today.
So, Councillor Harlow, you may want to split out the difference between, and let us know the difference between what's in the sustainability guidance versus anything else with that.
Obviously, the sustainability guidance is general, not specific. I don't know the answer to your question. I'm going to have to come back to you on that.
Thank you. Councillor Durkin, you were indicating.
Yes, thank you. And if I go back to my original question about the town plan consultation, I need to thank the Cabinet member for recognising the contribution that everybody made, including the former councillor Danny Purton, who sadly passed away and wasn't acknowledged at the time over this. But we know he was at the front of everything that was done about this. Will we have a conflict of interest here? Because you're talking as the Cabinet member that you want to do a town plan consultation, and consultation by its definition means that before any decision's being made, but at the same time you're now approving, or you were hoping to approve this evening, this particular area that looks at health and well-being, renewable energy, economic growth, social economic checklist. Surely, I don't know if it was Andrew who said cart before the horse, but surely you can't. Do you feel that there is a conflict of interest, whereas you're actually saying that you want to consult widely, freely and transparently about the town plan, when we're already knowing that you're going to agree the town centre master plan, and now you're agreeing this? Thank you.
Councillor Harlow.
Thank you. Yes and no. The guidance is quite clear in that it is stratified into three areas. First one being mandatory, the next two aspirational. And if you read all of the various elements, they are quite comprehensive and do cover just about everything that can be thought of in terms of sustainability, whether that's health and well-being or renewable energy. This has taken, I understand, several years to produce. So really, and it is a planning policy document that we have to approve for it to be a material consideration plan. But if anything comes out of the consultation on the town plan, which is groundbreaking and not in this, there is no reason why we can't amend it.
Thank you, Councillor Harlow. Are there any other questions? Councillor Evans?
Question about philosophy, really. Given the importance of this issue, question to us all, I suppose, is that can we have a grown-up debate going forward so that we no longer have items of misrepresentation being put forward with regard to proposals So, for example, when one talks about sustainable transport networks, they're not misrepresented as monorails and being told to the public that that's what £100 million worth of monorails. So can we have a grown-up debate going forward on this? We will listen to what the proposals are. We will not seek to misrepresent your proposals, and we hope that you going forward don't seek to misrepresent ours. And that way, hopefully the town can then have an informed debate about the future of the town, the way the town and the way that the town's needs are going to be met. Thank you. It's a question.
I'd answer that question, Councillor Edwards, and say I'm always up for a grown-up debate, and I'm always up for people not misrepresenting things, and I'm more than happy to state on camera to the press that are here that I'm very much against any monorail project. Councillor Edwards, please, listen to you, would you listen to the chair answering? But I do think if we're going to have that adult conversation, we're going to talk about not misrepresenting, I encourage members like Councillor Durkin not to ask questions about carts before horse when paragraph A of the very report we're talking about talks about how sustainability ambitions were established under his previous administration by the Harlow and Gilston Town Vision and Design Guide approved on the 6th of December 2018, the policies of the Harlow Local Development Plan adopted in December 2020, and the Harlow District Council Declaration of Climate Emergency that I'm pleased to say was supported cross-party across the whole chamber on the 11th of July 2019. And that these are mature debates to bring a report tonight, to bring this very important document before us, that relies on all that has gone before it. And so yes, Councillor, I'm always happy to have a mature debate, but that maturity must exist on both sides. So Charles, you wish to answer?
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to Councillor Edwards' point, there have been a number of conversations about a light rail scheme that was the ambition of the previous administration, and as we know, in Labour Party graphics that were posted at the time, a monorail type structure was posted on your social media accounts, which residents and politicians in this town coined as a monorail. And I am one of those people that followed what the residents said. The residents said it was a monorail in all shape and form. What then happened was a calling committee where the previous portfolio holder, who in fairness cannot be here with us tonight, was questioned about a light rail scheme. And again, residents in the reports that have followed by your Harlow were calling it a monorail. I believe in what residents says and I support their concerns, and what we don't want is a monorail scheme in Harlow. And I know that there are further discussions to be had about the particular commission that the previous administration was putting forward with an econ, and there will be further announcements on that in due course of the further period.
Thank you, Councillor Charles. Are there any questions further? Councillor Durkin?
I don't think you're going to get away with that missed opportunity of calling me childish. First of all, you say that my comments are childish. Previously, you said they were not serious. Now, you gave me a sweet at the beginning of this.
Councillor Durkin, I didn't call your comments childish. I believe Councillor Edwards called your comments childish. I was just responding.
I think we can always play it back if you want to, but you are quoting me in reference to that. You didn't reference any other councillor over these issues. So can I say, Andrew, I'm giving your sweet back to you.
Thank you, Councillor Durkin. That wasn't a question, and so we'll move on. Are there any other questions? I'd like to ask one to Councillor Holloway on this. You said in your introduction that this has been passed previously by the other two authorities. What happens if we do not agree this tonight? Where does that leave the Harlow and Gilston Garden Town Development?
Well, as there are three planning authorities, the other two authorities will use it as a material consideration when considering their applications, and we won't.
So just to follow that up, the benefits of protection for things like environment, the benefits of greater sustainability, we can only access at this time in any planning application that comes before this council if we were to agree this document tonight.
Yes, and it's also another reason to adopt it is its aspiration to encourage developers to be more sustainable.
Thank you very much. I'm seeing no other hands for questions, so I'll move to the debate. Does anyone wish to speak in debate, please? Councillor Vince.
Yeah, I have to say, I thought the olive branch that Tony Edwards gave to the administration was very reasonable, and I'm disappointed with the response, I have to say, Chair. If we're going to carry on calling him on, I think that's really disrespectful, not only to the former portfolio holder who certainly can't be here to defend himself, but it's actually not true. But if that's the way we're going to get going, that's absolutely fine. I'll bear that in mind for future meetings. Thanks, Chair.
Any discussion that's actually on the paper rather than Councillor Harlow.
Thank you very much, Councillor Johnson. I just wanted to make a comment about the document, which I am very familiar with because obviously it's been kicking around for quite a long time, and I think it is a terrific document, and I think it's a very important, aspirational, and as you said, I think Councillor Hardware, I don't know, world class, or anyway, you gave it a recognition which I think is due and correct, and I just think it's worth making clear to the public that the great thing this brings to the town is cohesion across the whole town. So these are not principles which actually, when I was looking at it last year, I understood to be for the garden town developments. I now understand this is the new standard across our town. I think that's what's really exciting in terms of how this very ambitious program of growth that I think we're all very excited about is going to elevate the town. It's not going to create areas that are left behind. It's not going to create more desirable, more aspirational, more environmentally friendly areas. It's going to create a cohesive whole that we should all be very excited to be part of. So I think that's a really wonderful aspect of this that I don't think should be lost on the general public. It was lost on me until I came to review it again recently.
Thank you, Councillor Harlow. Not seeing anyone else. Before I go to you to sum up, I'd like to say a few words. I'd like to echo actually a lot of what Councillor Harlow has just said. This document has been knocking around a few years in various different forms. The Harlow and Gilston Garden Town has been well planned already. It's been under discussion, under debate and under agreement for a number of years now. I think as these things start to come to fruition, I'm pleased to see members of the opposition not walking away from the work that they've done previously. I think I'd like to thank the officers for the huge amount of work that has gone into this document, and that's officers not just in our authority, but across the 3 different planning authorities. I know this has been a great deal of debate, but it is a really big document. It needs to be, because if we're going to get the planning of our town going forward right for the next generation, and if we're going to see the size of growth to the north of the town that is planned in Harlow and Gilston, we need to get it right, because we don't get a second chance at it. We don't get a second bite. And if you don't have a document like this that lays down the rules for developers, but also lays down the aspirations of our town, of our community, and indeed that of the neighbouring authorities, then I think it would be very easy for the developers to drive that. We talked about carts and horses tonight, but they could drive a cart and horses between the different planning authorities. I think it's really important that we get it right. And if that means that the buildings have to be sustainable, if that means the buildings not have to be, they should be sustainable, if that means the developments have to be sustainable with good transport links and well connected to the present building, the present town, if the local heritage, a number of you I know I've bored you, I read archaeology at university, if the local heritage isn't protected, that would be a shame. If the environment wasn't protected as much as it could be, you're never going to be able to protect the environment totally when you build 12,000 houses, or whatever the final figure is. But it is important that, in the same way that Gibbard took time to plan our original town, any extensions to our town, or any extensions within our town, need to be planned appropriately, need to be guided appropriately by this authority. And the residents of the town, and the future residents of the town, need to know that it's been the best possible development it can be. So I welcome the report tonight, and Councillor Harlow, I'll turn to you to sum up.
Thank you. Just to clarify that a bit further, and you're quite right. Having said that the other 2 authorities have adopted this as a planning policy, it is only adopted for the applications that are around Harlow. that are part of the Garden Town, not all of their districts. Whereas in Harlow, this document applies to every application, as we are a Garden Town. So it's every new application will have to complete this checklist and demonstrate how sustainable it is. It is partially aspirational. Dealing with developers in my day job often, we say, yes, you've got to bring forward a sustainable application. And their first question is, so what's sustainable? What do you want? And more often than not, local planning authorities say, well, you know, a bit of renewable energy in there, a bit of good connection. There's nothing kind of specific. So this document, I wouldn't say it's world class, because I haven't seen any others around the world, but it is very detailed and much more than I expected it would be. And this will please developers because they've got something in writing which has the parameters that they have to stick to or aspire to. So I see it as being a huge positive document for the Garden Town as a whole, which I hope will be successful and developers will come forward with applications and tick the second and third boxes, not just the first, and that we start getting really sustainable developers. Thank you.
Thank you. The item has been moved and seconded. Can I see that it's agreed? Agreed.